to you live from a unique world where people are given a chance to get all of their aggression out by murder or every other which way, 2 times a year. You heard it here first on Interdimensional RSS, the unofficial Rick and Morty podcast.
Hello, everybody. I'm Travis.
Hello, everybody. I am Brandon.
And we're back. Happy New Year.
Happy New
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely. Like it's 2 weeks past New Year. Is it still fair game? Like I don't know what the rules are, Brandon, for how long you can say Happy New Year.
You can say so long as you don't see somebody at all throughout the year. It can be December 31st of the following.
But the problem is you say it on December 31st, and they're just gonna assume you mean that next New Year. Like nobody assumes you're happying the old year.
Well, you say that, but that's exactly what I've been doing.
You avoid people for 364 days, and then you're like, gotcha, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, haha.
Nailed it.
Anyway, Happy New Year, everyone. Because I will not see you, and you mostly just hear us, have a Happy New Year all year long. From us here at Interdimensional RSS, the unofficial Rick and Morty podcast. So happy you came back for the 2019 episodes, because we're back. It feels so long, Brandon.
It does, and it feels like these episodes, even though we're finishing up season 2, we have 2 episodes left to cover. We've got a ways in 2019 still before we get season 4 or season 3B, whatever you want to call it. We are just we've got ideas for content, and we will bring that to you just as soon as we're done with the season 2.
Just as soon as we finish thinking of it. But if you have ideas for content, if you, Unity, you're listening to this and you're like, I have the best idea for a great topic for an episode, why don't you hit us up on social media over at Twitter at Rick and Morty Pod, over at our subreddit rickandmortypodcast.reddit.com, or maybe on the actual Rick and Morty subreddit rickandmorty.reddit.com. We have our Instagram where you can get near daily doses of no context Rick and Morty podcast on Instagram, and then facebook.com/Rick and Morty podcast, rickandmortypodcast@gmail.com. Send us an email. We love emails. We love hearing your thoughts. Send us your show ideas. We'll make it. We'll just do it. All bets are off.
All bets are off.
And then if you would like to support this show with your dollars and cents, you can head over to patreon.com/rickandmortypod to support the show financially. Thank you so much to all of the patrons who help support this show and keep the lights on and keep the mics running, keep the title cards rolling on our video versions of our episodes. You know, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and you can also find us on our fairly new website over at rickandmortypod.com.
Ooh, it's a legit URL and everything.
Oh yeah. Hey, tell a friend. Say, hey, I heard about this Rick and Morty podcast, but there's a domain name that says Rick and Morty podcast that is kind of empty, but Rick and Morty Pod is free.
Somebody went out and they're like, this show, it's got potential. I'm gonna go buy the URL in case anyone makes a podcast for it. That'll show them.
I think it. I don't want to. I think it expires sometime in 2020. Wink.
All right, we'll just watch out for that.
I didn't give the real date when it was going to expire.
Brandon, don't tell anybody. They might know.
All right. Anyways.
Yeah. How you been? Did you have a good break?
I did.
What have you been up to?
It's a brand new year. It's a new set of podcasts, and I'm ripped and raring to go, refreshed and wanting to talk some Rick and Morty with you, my friend.
Yeah, I'm excited to get back into it. We recorded an Apathetic Enthusiasm last week. If you haven't gotten a chance to go check that out, you can check it out at apatheticenthusiasm.com. And it was our first podcast of 2019, and it was good to get the headphones back on, sit down in front of the mic, and not just play D&D, but actually record a podcast. So that's what we're doing. Excited that you're back with us. Let's get right into our first major segment of the show, and that's semi-pertinent news.
Semi pertinent news.
Wow, I like the pre-recorded ones that you have set up for us now, Brandon. That's great.
Yeah, remember when I said I was gonna do that, and
New
I
year,
just
new
did
pod. It's we're fresh on the scene, changing things up.
Oh yeah. Oh here we go. Actually, I've got something for it.
Ah.
Semi pertinent news. Semi pertinent news.
It's the wrong song. That's the wrong song. All right. First up is semi-pertinent news. This is just breaking news today as of this recording. Rick and Morty over in the UK is moving. Rick and Morty was available on Netflix in the UK. Definitely not something that you could find in the US. You got to get a Hulu subscription. You want to stream some Rick and Morty.
That Hulu.
But Netflix had it in the UK, but not for much longer. Channel 4, and I'm gonna pretend like I understand what all of this means, being a dirty American that I am. But I believe Channel 4 is a television station in the United Kingdom, and they are going to be carrying season 4 episodes of Rick and Morty, and they also have a streaming service which will now be the home of the streaming Rick and Morty. So Netflix no more for our UK fans. If you're over in the UK and you want to explain to us what all of that means and whether or not it's a big deal, we're happy to know about it. Rick and Morty will still be on Adult Swim here in the US. So that's
good.
I can say with 98% confidence that is still going to be the case here in
with
America.
Just about absolute certainty, which makes us Sith, turns out. Because they're the only ones who deal in absolutes.
Absolutely.
It doesn't. Yeah. Okay. Next up, something that was going on around Christmas time. Some 16-bit videos by Paul Robertson. Blood Dome. It was like a Blood Dome video game, and
it looked like a fighting game type 16-bit fighting game.
Yeah. And it looks bitchin'. And I would love to play that game.
They just needed like that really good background music where it's just like blood.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We should have worked out a collab, man. Could have gone to the next level.
Paul Robertson, you should have hit me up, and I could have given you some crappy recordings. Yeah, anyway, we'll have that video over in our show notes, but you can also go to Adult Swim, their Twitter. I think it's on their Instagram and their Facebook.
Yeah,
or
they usually post it across all their social media platforms.
Yeah. And so there's a series of those. There's 3 of them. Also, there's a different promo by Gary Yee, which is a I saw somebody describe it on Twitter. The Dan Levy, he talks about how it's shows the predatory nature of Rick and Morty from microscopic to cosmologic. Cosmologic is that a
that sounds close enough.
So yeah, that video is really, really cool too. I want to talk about that other than the video itself being awesome, which is just how hungry and I'll say thirsty people are for season 4 content.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kind of clickbaity articles and legitimate news sources, they picked this up and they're like, oh, does this mean season 4 is going to drop soon? Oh my God. Adult Swim dropped a new promo. And that always gets me, because if they paid attention to the Adult Swim and Rick and Morty feeds at any given week, they would see basically a new one of these videos all the time.
Yeah, there's almost always promos or new like ads, new little animation snippets and things that come out. Yeah, it's always one of those things where like we do semi-pertinent news every episode, and times like these, this is like the real slow news time. You could probably tell at this point as we reference like 16-bit animation videos and stuff. But every week when I'm like prepping for the show, I go out and I search Rick and Morty news because when you're in the height of a season, there's all kinds of things that are very Googleable items. But like right now, it's all clickbait and the same websites that keep running information on Rick and Morty season 4, and then you click on the website and it's just like, as of right now, there is no announcement for release date or any realistic information about season, and it's like a news article about the fact that there's no news. And here we are. This is exactly what we're talking about. But it can be really discouraging. I'm starting to get the repeated questions from people at work saying, "Hey, when is season 4 coming out?" And I continue to. I'm just gonna go with the Dan Harmon. They're drawing it because I'm assuming they're drawing it at this point. At least storyboards are being made. So yeah, they're drawing it.
Maybe I should capture that audio and we'll play it once an episode until we get some.
That's how cartoons work.
Okay.
Write them.
The next little bit. Speaking of things that really gotta jump out at you, news wise, and not kind of there to draw numbers into your website. Over on BuzzFeed, the king of quizzes, how you make your coffee will reveal which Rick and Morty character you are.
All right, I'm gonna stop you right there. Just time out. Okay, so I feel like there's some super mega computer over at BuzzFeed HQ that just has like all these different like parameters. That's like, it's like how you make your coffee, which shoes you wear in the spring, like which Rick and Morty character you are, which Disney character. And all it does is it takes one category from each side and slams it together. And then it's like, hey, which drapes do you think go the best with this, interior design? Let us know and we'll tell you which communist leader is most like you. Like it's so arbitrary.
BuzzFeed just has made a Mad Libs generator on their website. Just and they put all their money towards, like, some of it towards legitimate journalism, the other towards
there's like BuzzFeed News that's like legitimate breaking stories and doing political coverage. And then there is how you make your coffee determines which Rick and Morty character is most likely. Did you actually take this quiz, dude?
I did not. I was going to take it before we started, but then the website wasn't loading. Maybe it's just being overloaded.
Mine's loading. Mine's loading right now. So
you want to take a quiz real quick?
Let's do it. So pick a device to brew your coffee. You've got microwave, siphon coffee maker, Keurig, a Chemex, or a coffee maker. I'm gonna use a typical day in my life for this quiz, because not like a lazy Saturday, not like 3 days into a holiday break when I'm doing pour over. Like I'm going, Monday through Friday, standard stuff. Oh, but then, do you like hot or iced? Go hot, I guess. Pick a roast. Gotta go that dark roast. Pick a milk. No milk. You don't know me. How much sugar? Ew, no sugar. Pick a specialty drink. All right. So you have latte, just black, matcha latte, macchiato, and then a frozen mocha. I know you're a macchiato man, but when I roll in, my default's a latte, so I'm gonna go with that. And then choose someone to have coffee with. Now this is where it really goes Rick and Morty. Your options to share a cup of joe are Mr. Meeseeks, Pickle Rick, Jessica, Snuffles, or Mr. Poopy Butthole. First off, we're throwing out Pickle Rick. That's not happening.
Yeah. What is he gonna do having coffee with you? It's just he's gonna be on the table.
Yeah. It's gonna smell like pickles. It's gonna ruin the aroma of the coffee. Jessica, no, that's Morty's gal. Yeah. Mr. Meeseeks, he could definitely. He had that conversation with Beth. Things went really well, but I got to go with Mr. Poopy Butthole. I feel like that would just be a good time.
You have to.
All right. With my thoughts, with the things I have told you, Brandon, who do you think my Rick and Morty character is?
Beth.
Ooh. Close, but it's Beth's dad. That's right. I got Rick. Wubba lubba dub dub.
Oh.
I got Rick. I'm too busy being a genius, traveling dimensions with your nerdy spaz of a grandson. So you're going to need some strong Irish coffee, preferably something served in a silver flask. You get to go, you get to get to you through your adventure.
Your description is far longer than what I got. I took the quiz while you were taking the quiz. A couple key differences. I also chose Mr. Poopy Butthole, but the macchiato, you're absolutely right about that. And I got, care to guess?
Beth.
No. Close,
Are you a Jerry?
no, close though. Beth's daughter, Summer. You're totally
Ooh.
Summer. Oh my God. In between liking posts on Instagram, you're like probably totally sipping on a pumpkin spice latte or peppermint mocha. And I mean, I don't like pumpkin spice and I am not a huge mocha fan, but other than that, accurate.
Yeah, there you go. So you're totes Summer and I'm totes Rick. Totes not. But hey, thanks for the content, BuzzFeed. If you want to go take this quiz, head over to the show notes for this episode. We'll keep the link in there. Yeah, BuzzFeed quizzes are fun right up until the point where they ruin all social media platforms for all time.
And this was a demonstration of how shows, websites fish for content and provide you something that you don't really care about.
Yeah, we're so transparent. I
wet
also
your whistle.
It cracks me up that they think I'm the least rickest guy there is. All right, but you're a total Summer. Let's just be honest.
Yeah,
always on that Instagram with your no context Rick and Morty's.
Not
All
really
right,
that.
let's talk about the Morty of the month for this month. Brandon, what Morty is in store for a lucky listener?
This month. Oh, I should have like some cool little like game music. Like for match game. This month from Symbiote Studios, the Morty of the month is Birdosaur Morty. You want a Morty from a dimension where dinosaurs ruled the world? Well, guess what? You've got your chance this time with Birdosaur Morty. But
Yeah.
pow.
Very cool. Another Morty for your collection. Over the holidays, Brandon sent me my Morty of the month. I got the crazy cat Morty. And yeah, I gotta say when I got that bad boy in the mail, very high quality on these plushes. So if you want to get yourself a Birdosaur Morty, head out to Twitter, retweet the tagged post later this week, and you will be eligible to win that prize from Symbiote Studios. And head over to their website. They've got all kinds of great Pocket Morty themed plushes, and pick one up.
Pick it up.
Just like Scott. Pick it up.
Pick it up. Oh, my son's playing trumpet now. Pick it up. Before we get on to our final section in semi-pertinent news, a little bit of semi-pertinent news for us here at the podcast. If you care, Apathetic Enthusiasm, we started that up again. I started my Twilight Zone podcast up again, submitted for your approval, which features a really good guest, old Travis Menard. So if you like Twilight Zone, head out to submit for your approval, Twilight Zone podcast. And I was recently on a podcast talking about a Sega Genesis game called X-Men 2 Clone Wars. And that's over at the Play Comics Cast if you're interested on Twitter. But that's it for that. It's semi-pertinent because it applies. Like
it applies to us. Yeah,
it applies to us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's news.
It's pertinent to this podcast.
Yeah. I rushed through that because nobody actually gives a shit about that. Let's move on to the Dan Harmon Social Media
Dan Heller, social media minute. When you only have a minute and you need something social, go check out the Dan Heller social media minute. That's right. I said, Brandon, come back to me. Come back. That's right. Dan Harmon social media minute. We are talking about Instagram posts because Dan Harmon doesn't do Twitter anymore. Plenty of time since our last episode to scour his Instagram feed and check out what's good on the old IG. But I got to go with Dan Heller getting engaged. That's right. On his trip to Tahiti, I think it was. Dan and his girlfriend, Cody, they spent some time out there. And while on that vacation on a beautiful beach somewhere in the Pacific, or maybe it's the Caribbean, I don't know where Tahiti is, Cody proposed to Dan. So Dan is officially engaged, and he is hinting at taking her name. The ring that she proposed with is engraved with the name Dan Heller on it. So congratulations, Dan. If you want more information about the proposal and why he did not propose to her, but the other way around, check out the most recent episode of Harmontown. He goes into that pretty extensively early on in that episode. But yeah, congrats, and maybe they'll get married at some point. Maybe they won't, but it makes for a great Instagram post.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Travis. We have a link to that Instagram, or just go to Dan Harmon's Instagram if you care to know.
It's in the top 10 most recent posts.
But that is it. That is it for semi-pertinent news, which leads us into our main segment, something we like to call I'm
the main thing.
The main thing. Main thing.
I like that. Anyway. That's right. It's the main thing. We are still working our way through season 2. Only 2 episodes left of season 2. And this week we are talking about episode 209. Look Who's Purging Now.
Oh yeah, written by Dan Harmon, Ryan Ridley, and Justin Roiland. Yeah, I did say that. I was gonna say Riddles, and then I was like, oh, I don't want to insult him.
It feels too familiar.
Yeah,
you know, I know he's a huge friend of the show and loves the podcast, but let's keep it formal, right? Let's keep it.
Yeah, I mean, we talk to him all the time, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to insult him this time around. Right. Directed by Dominic Polcino. Originally aired September 27th, 2015.
So long ago. So long. That was like 4 years ago, Brandon.
Oh, my God. We're getting so old.
All right. So the synopsis for this episode. This is episode 9. Look Who's Purging Now. Morty goofs this time, bruh. And now they got to chill out and wait. Jerry and Summer explore their father-daughter relationships too, bruh.
Got a doo-doo in my butt.
I gotta say, that's probably my favorite Rick and Morty song. All right. Well, as stated within the actual episode, this is a bit of a back to basics episode for Rick and Morty. Previous episodes, right before this episode aired, we had the Tempting Fate Interdimensional Cable 2, so it was a lot more improvisational. They're doing a few different things with the characters. So this one is really just a classic Rick and Morty adventure. Just Rick and Morty heading out in a spaceship, checking out a crazy planet, writing an episode loosely based on a popular movie. Just basic Rick and Morty type stuff.
Basic Rick and Morty stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Other than some side plots with this old Summer and her relationship with Jerry, it's really all about. I would say it's not even about the relationship between Rick and Morty. It's really about Morty discovering something about himself and then basically immediately repressing it.
Yeah. Typical Morty stuff. Yeah. So I don't know. I like this episode. I think the premise is fun enough. Plenty of gratuitous violence, which fits right into a traditional Rick and Morty episode. I also like that it's a sort of, I don't know, like they refer to them as Amish, but like a really simple living sort of community on this planet. But
Yeah.
they're totally fine with this other technology just like being in their face and having spaceships fly around and laser guns and stuff like that. But everybody's super peaceful right up until the festival that happens at sundown. And Rick gets really excited early on about that, and he really wants to watch the purge. And one of my favorite moments early on in the episode is when Morty is in such a hurry to get off the planet, and Rick is like low key stalling to make sure that they're there for sundown. He's like talking to the shopkeeper
Yeah.
and like
Look at that
forgetting
sunset.
forgetting
Look at
to
that
unlock
sunset,
the
Morty.
doors. Yeah.
I going back to just your mention of the of these cat people, these catmish people, not even caring that there's aliens coming down in a spaceship. The only person who like reacts in any way is Arthricia when they first meet her, where she's like, "Oh, flying machine. Oh, uh, are you alien or what did they say? Are you gods?"
Yeah, she talks about their spaceship and she's like, "Is this from the gods or something?" And then
Morty says no.
yeah, and Rick says yes. Like they answer at the same time with different answers. Yeah.
Immediately, and they make a joke about them being aliens a few times in the episode, like when they first meet the lighthouse guy, like, oh, by the way, we're from another planet, don't let that distract you.
Yeah, it's the other thing that happens quite a bit in this episode, and like looking at who the writers are on this episode, I'm trying to like, I don't know, read into it and get the feel like, is this because Dan was a key writer on it? Is it because like Ridley or Justin were more in a writing credit? But it breaks the fourth wall a lot more in this episode than I feel some of the past episodes do, where Rick is acting very self-aware that they are in a TV show. One of the things, like towards the end, he talks about, hey, remember those candy bars we got back in the first act?
Yeah.
There's a couple other things right up at the front where he's just talking about their adventure in terms of like an episode of the show instead of an actual adventure itself. And I don't know, it's interesting to hear those things and have Rick critique Morty almost like we do right now as fans critiquing the show. It's fun to watch that happen within the episode.
Yeah. You put a question in here, and it's referencing a line while they're in a spaceship.
Yeah,
And
it's right before the purge starts, and Morty is disgusted by the idea of the purge, and Rick is really fascinated, and he asks Morty if there's a video online of someone getting decapitated, do you click on it? And
Morty's like, no, do you?
and Rick's response is very interesting because he doesn't say yes. He says, no, I'd be bored by it. I've already seen too much crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I do want to know though, Brandon, are you the type of person that clicks on that video?
I have clicked on those videos before, back when I was like 19, 20,
Yeah,
when the
yeah.
internet,
When we're young and just dumb and just click on any old link.
like I'm in my dorm room and I'm like, oh, the internet has streaming video. Okay, let me go watch stuff off of like some of these like the dark web internet site. So yeah, I did, and it kind of goes back to my parents used to, when I was a kid, they would rent Faces of Death. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, so I remember Faces of Death, and I was always like not into it. Like I've seen some of them obviously, and I've seen some of the milder type of stuff that is like approved for cable viewing that would
Yeah.
be shown on like some TNT channel or something like that, or Real TV or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But no, I was never really into that like Faces of Death type shows. So
Yeah.
yeah,
My parents were fascinated by that stuff. And like, you talk about like when your parents went through driver's ed back in the day. Uh for our younger listeners, your grandparents when they went through driver's ed, and they would watch like Red Asphalt.
Red Asphalt, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I may have been shown Red Asphalt, which like I had like a really weird and kind of kooky driver's ed teacher, but I don't know if that was part of the district curriculum, but he definitely showed us some sketchy stuff in driver's ed.
Yeah. And also Devil and Miss Jones and behind the green door.
We watched Brazil for some reason. I don't know. It was
no,
we watched that in film class, not in driver's
I just
ed.
named 2 porn films for you. Really classics. Anyway, so I did. I don't anymore. Even like recently, as a couple of years ago, there was like a video of somebody. It was like a newswoman who some guy like videotaped him walking up to her and then shooting her in the face. And that video was going around, and I think that was the last time I watched anything, and I didn't finish it because I was like, this is bad. This is awful of me to be contributing to the downfall of society by getting any kind of
supporting their purge ideologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's. I've always been a very empathic person, I think, in general. So I think it's always really difficult for me to watch anything like that and not immediately like associate with the people in the video.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to be desensitized and really separate it. And that's sort of continued throughout my life. And I wonder if maybe that's a part of the reaction that Rick has when he's like, yeah, let's check out this purge, and then they're there and it's happening and there's blood spattering up on the spaceship, and he's like, oh, I don't know, I think I might have, my eyes were bigger than my stomach on this one, Morty. But yeah, I don't know. It's
thank you. I gotta write that quote down. Yeah. And the thing with Rick watching these folks just destroy each other down below, is the fact that all these people, for the most part, there's innocent victims in all purges, but they're all participating in it willingly, and so it's kind of like watching a horror movie where like
it is almost just like the premise of a horror movie. Brandon, you're right.
No. Like if the purge is real and you're in a spaceship above the purge happening and you're watching it, it's like watching a horror film because they're all like you're removed from it. There's no real emotion involved in there.
Yeah, and I think it's almost like watching a nature documentary with my youngest kid. All right, because like we watch Planet Earth or some nature documentary, and I see the gazelle running away from the cheetah, and the cheetah finally catching it and like eating it, and I think to myself, like, that's nature, and that's how that cheetah gets its food, and that's part of the balance of nature and everything. But my daughter sees a gazelle get attacked, and so she's crying on the couch next to me while I'm like, oh yeah, that's interesting how it uses the trees to kind of get around, and like much more scientific and separated, like, because and I think there's an argument that Rick may have approached it that way, where he's just, I want to observe how these people do their festival, but he seemed to have a much more visceral reaction to it. I also want to give credit to the animation team on this one for first the bug splatter on the windshield, and then
windshield wiping.
the windshield wiping with a great like spread of colors on that, and then that foreshadowing the blood on the windshield that they then wipe off using the windshield wipers again. And it's not really spoken to, but I see you, animation team. Well done. Great job. You keep doing you.
You're doing good. You're doing good work. Yeah, absolutely. The animation team does a really good job throughout the episode, and I think I need to add it to a couple moments to my favorite bits, which I'll get to towards the end of this.
Yeah, in the
but
segment where we talk about our favorite bits.
But I want to ask this question: Purge planets, huh? You think that would work? I don't want to ask you that question because you wrote it to me.
I did write the question, but I wrote it for both of us.
Okay.
And realistically, I don't think it would work. The premise seems from the first time the premise came up in a horror film, it seemed a little too easy. Like, oh, all criminals, everybody, every crime of passion, everything is gonna sort of somehow be bottled down and pushed down and only unleashed one night a year. And then, like, what if you're having a great day? What if the day of the festival you're like, you wake up early, your hair looks right without even having to like do anything. You end up finding out you got that promotion at work, like everything's going great. You find $1 on the street, and that's like, oh great, now I gotta go kill people. When I'm in this mood, come on.
I was having a good day. Now I gotta do bad stuff to good people.
Here I go killing again. All right.
My thing about my thought about the Purge movies and the concept of a Purge planet, and I've seen like I watched the first two, maybe a little bit of the third one, but not Election Year. I didn't watch that.
Mm-hmm.
It was too on the nose when it was. Was I don't know that they talk about what happens throughout the rest of the year, right? Like, I wouldn't mind watching or hearing a story or reading a story about the Purge planets or areas. What happens on the other 364 days? Right?
Yeah.
Like, if somebody murders somebody or
it seems
beats somebody up.
It seems primed for like a short story or blog, like that, an r/writing prompts post. Like I think that's a perfect forum for it.
Yeah, like so Arthrisha in this episode, she goes to the folks who are controlling the planet, the rich folks, and she uses Purge Night, the festival, to destroy them, right? With Rick's help.
Right.
What is preventing them the other however many days of the year on this planet from rising up against the rich folks?
Yeah, I feel like that scene is like an interesting twist on it, but then like it's also it doesn't make total sense, cuz yeah, if they could have always fought if they knew that the rich people were really at fault, like for this, like I don't know, I feel like they wouldn't wait for just the Purge Night to go fight back. So I almost like, is it supposed to convey that she's like got extra information or insider information where like she's the one that's put it together, that the people at the top are in charge, like, and nobody else seems to get that? Or I don't know. But I did think it was interesting too that it does reveal that it's not just a planet-wide, everybody buys into this idea, but it is some, aristocratic elite up at the top pulling the strings, and obviously like the scene, they're in this mansion and they have all the like fine food and everything, and then you compare that to the rest of the society that we see, who are all living in like simple farms and not really having the same luxuries as the rest of the purgers.
As it turns out, I think the answer to the question from my end is no. I don't think it would
So.
work.
It's a no.
I don't think it's a hard pass for me just because of the question I ask about the other days of the year. Like
Yeah.
uh there there's a lot more that would have to happen. Like my aggression doesn't like I can't go a week where I don't get annoyed at somebody
Yeah.
in my life, right? And I won't name names. People at work, I hate all of you.
People I
Just kidding.
podcast with.
They don't listen to this
Yeah.
this show. If they do, I'm sorry. I love all of you. Thanks for working with me.
You're gonna
Uh,
have that one person at work that keeps coming up to you like, "Hey, man, I just want to be sure everything's okay." Because, like, I mean, nothing in particular. Just want to be sure we're cool, right? Like, we're cool, right?
Let me ask you let me ask you this. It's kind of a play off of the purge planets that they'd work. Is is there anybody that if this was a purge planet that you would be like, okay, I'll make an exception to my no kill rule, my no Batman kill rule.
Oh, I don't.
Go ahead,
I,
tell me your deep dark secrets, Travis.
yes, there's one person that I wish to threaten to kill on my internet podcast that can be used against me in a court of law. No,
This will all be mine. This is a
obviously.
power.
I can't speak now, which is not great for podcasting. I don't think I have rage at that level right now, even repressed rage, and what little there is, I take out in video games, so I don't need to purge it up because for the most part I feel pretty good.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear you say that. I wouldn't kill anybody either because I'm a good person and I respect the sanctity
Yep.
of life.
And that is admissible in a court of law.
But what I would do is probably if somebody was dead and I saw him, I'd be like, well, they're already dead. What can it hurt to hit him with a bat?
You'd be like a raged out Morty shooting corpses.
Yeah. I'd be a purge scavenger.
Let's talk for a minute about Morty and his inner rage, because that becomes sort of a central theme in this episode. And for the most part, in most episodes, Rick is the kind of crazy one that's willing to do whatever it takes, including kill others. And Morty seems to be the much more reserved and sensible one who would prefer to talk his way out of a situation than go in guns blazing. But at a point, that repressed rage gets the better of Morty, and it starts with him pushing the lighthouse keeper down the stairs of the lighthouse. And then as they go and work their way through the town, Morty just goes off and starts killing everybody to a level that almost seems to worry Rick. Like what have I done here? What have I unleashed in Morty? Do you think that says anything, sort of deeper about Morty as a character or his experience, adventuring with Rick? Is this like that pressure release valve, or is this just an indicator of maybe some bigger problems that could be ahead for Morty?
I choose not to read into it as far as long-term ramifications, especially considering what we see in season 3.
Yeah, the season 3 premiere kind of tips at this again with the fake gun gag.
Yeah. But I think that generally Morty is taking all these experiences with Rick, and he is periodically lashing out, and he just happens to be able to lash out with a robot or an exosuit.
Yeah, exosuit.
And even though the candy bar he got in the first act says now Purginol free or whatever it says on the wrapper.
Yeah.
It's just like when you go to Starbucks and you get a caramel macchiato, as I'm wont to do,
or a latte, whatever you're into.
I'm trying to use a lot of vocal fry when I talk about the caramel macchiato. That if you ask for decaf, there's still going to be caffeine in that. There's still caffeine in that. And so when it says Purginol free, yeah, it probably still has a little bit of Purginol in it.
Yeah, you're not gonna have that same purgy flavor without at least trace amounts or some sort of Purginol substitute, which you can never be sure exactly how much Purginol you have.
Right. Exactly. And we don't see the nutrition label on that candy bar.
And let's be realistic. You know, like the placebo effect is a thing. Maybe you're used to eating a candy bar that has Purginol in it. Now all of a sudden you take out the Purginol, you eat the candy bar, your body's still telling you, to purge out. Like it's it's scientifically proven.
It's how the candy's made. It's not necessarily the ingredients all the time, but it's the manufacturing process, the packaging. Like they have like those BPA's in plastic.
Let's talk about vaccinations for a second. Anyway, so Morty purges out, and he becomes a vicious little rage monster until Rick shocks him and sedates him, and
so
then
nonchalantly
straps him to his back while he and Arthricia go rock out to Tony Tone. Feels good.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We it's like we planned it.
Sexy. We it's like we're Tony. We need a third.
Spelled 3 different ways.
The last thing you put on here is not spoil. There's more stuff to talk about, but this last thing Travis put on for discussion, that the episode does make a case for Beth eventually leaving Jerry, and I think definitely that's accurate. And we'll see when we talk about Wedding Squanchers again next week.
Yeah,
even more so, or not next week, 2 weeks from now. But yeah, the whole Jerry, get a job.
yeah. And I guess we could kind of talk about the B plot, if there is one really in this episode. But it all really revolves around Summer and Jerry, and Summer being a fairly standard teenager, while Jerry is bored and lonely in the house, still unemployed, and he is trying to some sort of bridge some sort of connection with his firstborn, and so he walks into the room and asks her, "Hey, you using your phone there?" And she kind of just immediately attacks him. Like,
what are you doing? Using your phone? Playing on your phone?
How am I supposed to respond to that? I either I'm sarcastic or I'm forced to say yes. You're holding me verbally hostage. All right, like
hey, Dad, where are you going? You going to the kitchen?
Yeah, and that continues as he tries to bribe her with crackers, and then Summer is this the first time she has helped Rick in some sort of like preconceived plan of Rick's to get him out of trouble using Summer as the sort of a facilitator for that? Oh, hey, it's the space phone Rick gave us. And then she goes into the garage.
In the couch cushions of all places.
Exactly. Is that Tatty Mason? Anyway.
Yep.
But yeah, so she's the one that shoots the mech suits out to the Purge planet. And then while Jerry is finally finding a way to connect with Summer and talk about when she was a little girl and he used to go push her on the swing set,
swinging her higher than the other kids,
we find out Jerry's true intentions, and that is that he is broke and needs money and is asking his teenage daughter with a part-time job for a little bit of help just to get through before the rent is due.
Here's a real quick aside question. The last job she had was with Mr. Needful. What job does she have at this point in time?
I don't know that it's specified. I don't think it's talked about. Maybe she got a job at a different thrift store or something.
Yeah, maybe she's doing like trying to get a startup for a a needful competitor.
Yeah, yeah. It's a .com boom sort of,
Yeah.
web 3.0, multi-level startup. They're really into failing fast and creating
Yeah.
MVPs to create tight feedback loops.
It was part of the needful boom of the mid 2015s.
Yeah, it's interesting that they don't mention it, but Summer in this episode is one of Forbes' top 40 under 40, and she's got a very successful startup at this point.
That's incredible.
All of the time that she's on her phone, she's actually busy managing her stock portfolio.
She's on Hootsuite, like scheduling some tweets. She's checking her stocks.
Yeah.
Buy low, sell high.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, but it is interesting because it again just adds to the long list of things that makes Jerry pretty pathetic, and I feel like this is a good lead-in episode to the season finale, which we will be talking about in a couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. A good way to just set up some seeds of plot threads that will last through Wedding Squatchers and then the Rick Shank redemption.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's time now for our favorite bit of the show. Favorite bits.
Little bits.
Travis, you have something on here that I didn't really pay attention to, but you might be right. Well, what is that?
I am talking about when Arthricia is up in the spaceship after being rescued by Rick and Morty. There's a little segment that goes on where Morty is sort of trying to hit on Arthricia and trying to, talk to her and so how long you guys been purging and stuff like that. And in the background, Rick is kind of just like bored with the conversation and not really sure what they're talking about. So he pulls something out of his pocket and starts playing with it, and it's a little device. And he like folds it open, and it basically looks like a Nintendo 3DS. I'm pretty sure. And this links back to other episodes when Rick is really excited about, all right, guys, we gotta go get the Nintendo 3DS. If you buy the Zelda one, and it's like 20% off, and we can flip them and sell them. Like, so I don't know if that was like something that was written in, something where maybe the animators remembered that scene and thought, okay, what could Rick be doing while Morty is trying to talk to this girl? I don't know. Give him a 3DS, have him play with that. So I just thought that was funny, and it's something that your eye is not really drawn to. So it's sort of like only after the second or third time you've watched the episode, because you're preparing for a podcast, that you really catch that sort of thing.
Do you think that in you'll see any kind of like Nintendo Switch little animations in season 4?
Like in season 4, I could definitely see it. Yeah. I would not be shocked at all. Yeah.
One of my favorite little bits. It's a compilation of little bits, and I noticed it before, but I really honed in on it this time around. Was that Rick? He doesn't do this in any other episode really, but he has a series of saying the wrong idioms, using a wrong word for the idiom. So like I've seen worse shit like that for breakfast.
Yeah,
like his eyes eating breakfast, obviously. Damn it, Morty, you let your wiener do the walking. Right. And then you mentioned this, and I forgot it, but my eyes are bigger than my stomach.
Yep.
And another one of those. So I dig that little, and they're subtle, right? Like
yeah, they're just kind of thrown in there, sprinkled about.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of this episode is a character voiced by good old Ryan Ridley himself. But that is the lighthouse keeper, who's just interested in taking no part in your festival. But I'll let you use my lighthouse for shelter and beacon sending if you listen to my tale. And then the lighthouse keeper pulls out his written screenplay and starts reading it, including all stage direction and everything else, word for word, to Morty, who manages to sit through it. That's right, sit through it. I love the part at the end when Morty is trying to be really nice about the screenplay and just like, no, it's good. I just enjoyed it. I think it's great. Just keep writing. Yeah, good job. And then when the lighthouse keeper's like, don't hold back. I want your criticism.
Don't mollycoddle me.
Yeah. I can only get better if you tell me what you think. And so he like has one note, like, which feels like a total Dan Harmon sort of note, where it's just like, I don't think you should use the 3 weeks earlier thing. Like, stories should start where they start, and we should just tell them.
Now where they get interesting.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, you come in here and you get out of my lighthouse. Like, you've come in here. And it's really the lighthouse keeper being so like full of himself and like cocky, and Morty trying to be kind in the situation, but the lighthouse keeper is just so self-conscious throughout the whole thing that he just gets immediately offended by it. So it's just a great little scene, and really fun to watch.
There's a little bit of that when he's first reading the screenplay, and he's talking about panning past the windows of the city, the hustle and bustle of city life. And we played D&D last night, and I wrote an intro. I dungeon mastered, for those not in the nerd now. I DM'd, and so I wrote the intro, and so that the hustle and bustle of city life. As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh man, I did that.
I'm the lighthouse keeper. Oh no.
3 weeks earlier.
The end? Question mark.
That's how we ended the session last night. The other one of my other favorite bits is Morty's body as it's tied to the back of Rick's exosuit when they're dancing. It's just like flopping around to the rhythm, and
feels good.
And the camera pans in and zooms in on Morty's body, just for that moment, just floppy, and he looks so comfortable.
Yeah,
tied with like hemp rope.
His little rope baby Bjorn that he's strapped onto Rick with. Yeah, which it ties into one of my favorite bits in this episode, and that is the feels good track that they keep playing. First, when Morty finally unleashes his inner rage, and then just as like a plot device later on when the wealthy elite are like, what is that music? And they come busting in to some Tony.
Yeah, like when it first shows up, you think, oh, it's just Morty thinking about that music. Like,
right.
There's music in the background. And then they're like, no, actually that's what music plays.
That's probably playing on the speakers, like on the shoulder pads or something.
Sophisticated exosuits with old school Tony. All right. The last thing is it's just so convenient. Like, oh, you work on your Type 5, Morty? When he's asking Arthur
Type 5
about,
for the Comedy Store or whatever he says.
Asking her about the Purge planet, how it got to that point in time. And it's like, oh, it's like the iPhone's like, oh, whatever. And then eventually they're like, it's just so convenient. Like, no more questions about the Purge.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I also really like tying into that when Rick's like, this is your last chance to score with her. And he like goes up to her like, hey, maybe I can. And she's like, oh, I have a boyfriend. Geez, sorry. You're so nice. But, oh, gosh, I got the boyfriend.
No, it's
and
okay,
he's like,
I got it.
No, I took it well the first time. You don't have to keep saying it. Like,
it's just that, like, no, you're still doing it.
Yeah, that's another bit of just funny little, like, just interpersonal conversation that could happen in, like, any show, but it's great that it's happening between an Amish cat person on a purge planet and a teenage boy.
But before you get to your next one, get to your last one, because I want to talk about the next one with you.
Yes. So my last one is how hard Jerry has to work to turn off the TV for the Tatty Mason ad. And in general, the entire Tatty Mason premise, a name that we never have heard of before, being asked about earlier in the episode on the phone, and then finding out that Tatty Mason is a $1.99 a minute phone line for bored men who just need a friend to talk to. And so it feels just like almost like one of those like interdimensional cable ads that like maybe got cut and they're like, oh, just tie it into the next episode. But my favorite part about this is when Beth comes in and the ad comes on, and then Jerry's like like looking for the remote, and then like not sure how to turn off the TV on the TV, and then finally just rips the power cable out of the wall.
Jerry, get a job.
Yeah, Jerry, get a job.
There's a part of me on the Tatty Mason stuff that wishes that they didn't have this as a post-credit stinger to just keep the ambiguity of who the hell is Tatty Mason?
Yeah.
Like we just imagine it. We can be here right now saying, did we ever find out who Tatty Mason is?
All the Tatty Mason like theories that would be on the subreddit and stuff.
Tatty Mason is Morty. Tatty Mason.
Tatty Mason is the original Morty that was left on the
Evil
planet, and then he comes back, and what he's doing is he's calling Jerry, trying to let him know about where he is, but he's not willing to use his own name because he knows that Jerry isn't able to understand that there would be two Mortys in the same timeline. So if you rearrange the letters of Tatty Mason,
you are too fucking good at that. It's all that Lost experience, dude.
Ah, man, it's in my heart. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's the Tatty Mason story. $1.99. That's not too bad, right?
That's not too bad. I used to pay more for the box to listen to some Foo Fighter music.
Also,
videos.
if we're your Tatty Mason, thanks for listening. I appreciate you. We're your friends. Like and subscribe and do all those things.
The very last thing, and this is something I made you postpone just recently. But you say the way Rick sort of resets their purge principles as they leave. Not that specifically. The next part is what I want to talk about. But
yeah, are those Harmon and Schraub voices I hear? The band of villagers who are sitting around at sunrise as Rick and Morty leave the purge planet. They're trying to figure out how to rebuild their society now that the wealthy elite are no longer in charge. And Rick gives them some very simple advice, like, hey, if somebody needs something, you give it to them, and it's easy. And so some guy's like, I've got bread, but what am I going to eat if I give away the bread? And they're like, well, what if you get paid for making bread? And then who's going to watch my kids while I'm making all this bread?
Food for more food.
I'll watch your kids for more money. and that voice, I didn't pick up on it the first time. And the way the character is animated is just zany enough to match the Schraub voice that's coming out of him. But as I'm watching it, I'm really like hyper tuning into the voices at this point, and I'm like, oh, that is Schraub doing the voice on that. It definitely sounds like Schraub. And then the next person to talk is a villager with like a beard and like overalls, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's Dan Harmon doing a voice. So not always appearing in every episode, but Schraub and Harmon hitting the booth and laying down some tracks for this episode.
I love Rob Schraub, and in all those times I've watched the episode, I was like, that voice sounds distinctly different from any other voice that's been on the show. And so I just happened to catch the credits this time around, and I saw Rob Schraub right away. I was like, oh, that explains so much.
Why. Oh, okay. Yeah. So Schraub and Harmon laying down some voices,
some tracks.
All right. Well, that pretty much sums it up for our favorite bits from this episode, and really our recap of this episode overall. It's a good episode. It's a classic, as they say early on. Very traditional Rick and Morty episode, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. It could kind of live at any point in the series, so it's not something that ties into the overall arc. Though, as we mentioned before, I do think it kind of lays some seeds for things to come. But yeah, and is a nice, safe episode right before the blockbuster season finale that we'll get to next week.
This is another example of an episode that is actually really, really good, and I enjoy it every time I watch it. But isn't one that I necessarily like jump to. That I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one I want.
What are your favorite episodes? I don't immediately think Purge Planet episode. Lucas Purging now. But it is a solid episode that continues to deliver time and time again.
Yeah, if I were to grade it, I would grade it 100 billion.
Oh, good. That's a solid score.
Yeah.
I'd give it 29. Okay, so that's our thoughts on this episode. Let us know what you think. We didn't really get the social media streams out there in advance to get listener feedback on this episode, but we'd still love to hear, is there anything in this episode that we missed? Is there stuff that you really like about this episode that we didn't cover on the podcast? Hit us up over on Twitter at Rick and Morty Pod. Send us an email. Let us know what you think, and we will share your thoughts with our listeners, with you, Unity, in our final segment, listener suggestions and short outs, which unfortunately right now is rather bare, just because we did take a bunch of time off. A lot of people were out doing the holiday thing. So, Brandon, do you have any particular bits from the social media streams that you wanna short out on this segment?
Yeah. So there, obviously we've been gone since like maybe the first week and a half in December.
It feels like forever. Feels like a lifetime, Brandon.
Feels like forever. Oh, that's a Journey or Foreigner. Feels like the first time, not feels like forever.
Feels like the first. I'm sorry. We don't have the rights. Cut it off.
We do get a lot of responses to our no context screenshots. So just a shout out to everyone who responds to those, not by name because there's a ton of you, and that would take another 30 minutes of our time. And your time, and we appreciate you so much that we don't want to do that to you. But over at Chase Botwin on Twitter, he helped us with the Coffee Rick quiz. Also Linkler, he helped us. He shot us something on our Discord. His birthday was recent, and he took 29 shots on Snapchat. So happy birthday, our friend. I took a shot with you. I sent you a video, and man, I didn't take enough shots. But when as we're going into the season 2, some things we're keeping in mind for or not season 2. As we finish up season 2, things we're keeping in mind for content, the comics, the D&D stuff, and really anything else that you can think of, throw our way. You want us to talk about a specific character, explore a character, side characters, let us know. We are more than willing and happy to talk about them.
Yeah, we did a couple of character episodes very early in this podcast. If you haven't gotten a chance to go listen to those early episodes, hey, you got time. Go check them out. And thanks to everybody that has listened to the entire backlog of Interdimensional RSS. But those were super fun episodes to do, and it gave us a chance to really focus in on sort of a character individually and get an idea of how they add to the overall story. And we kind of cover characters a little bit in these episode recaps, but when you look at a character throughout the entirety of 3 seasons, you really get a better sense for who they are and how they make the show exactly what it is. So I'm definitely looking forward to some of those, and then covering different themes, covering all sorts of bits. And so if you have an idea for an episode, maybe I can talk Brandon into doing a theory episode. But we'll have plenty of episodes coming your way throughout the rest of 2019, and hopefully leading up to season 4 sometime this year. Is it too late? Is it too hopeful to say this year? I think we are existing in a year, Brandon, with new Rick and Morty episodes.
We're getting some new content that's not just a promo and not just a really cool video game animation.
Yes.
It's gonna happen. I know it. I feel it in my groin.
All right. Cool.
It's like, okay. I was gonna make a joke about not being able to have kids, but I'm not going to.
I'm glad you saved that. I'm glad you resisted. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for coming back and hanging out with us in 2019. If you haven't done so yet, if you have the time, head out to Apple Podcasts. Please give this show a review. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you like and what you don't like. And the best thing you can do is let a friend know about this podcast, especially if they love Rick and Morty. Let them know and share it with a friend. So that's
show me what you got.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, I'm Travis.
And I am Brandon.
See you later.
Thank you so much. Bye.